So after what was expected to be an absence of 10 to 14 days for Zach Lavine, he has now cleared the NBA health and safety protocol nearly 4 weeks later, and it'll actually be 4 weeks exactly if he does in fact return to the lineup for the Bulls in the next game against the Hornets on Thursday. But I think the question for the Bulls is, does it even make sense to bring him back at this point with just 7 games remaining in the season and the Bulls all but eliminated from playoff contention, and not just playoff contention, really even the play-in contention? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, before I get into the topic at hand, I did want to quickly talk through the Bulls game last night, because what seemed like a game that wasn't even worth talking about, let's be honest. I don't think any of us thought that this game was going to go over well for the Bulls when they were without Vuce yet again, and of course, Zach Lavine. On top of that, the Sixers were in fact fully healthy, which the Bulls hadn't seen all season, and Embiid and Simmons missed the last game that these two teams met. And of course, the Bulls played in true Bulls fashion from what we have seen all seasons. They came out very soft and sluggish. They fell behind quickly. The Sixers really dominated this whole game. They led by as many as 23 points, and then to start the fourth quarter, they were up by 20. And I'm sure most fans likely turned this game off if they even watched it at all. I know that I didn't, since I've been on vacation with my family, so I wasn't able to catch the game, but somehow, the Bulls team, just as inconsistent as they've been all season after being down 20 points to start the fourth, managed to bring this within 1 point with 5 minutes left to go in the game. I've never seen anything like it. Well, I guess I should take that back. I have seen something like it, just not the Bulls. The Bulls were on the other receiving end of this when the Spurs went on a 17-0 run to come back and beat the Bulls, who were up 20 in the fourth quarter. That was earlier on the season, slightly before the NBA's trade deadline. But for this Bulls team without Vucevic and Lavine to come back and make this game respectable against one of the best teams in the league, that was pretty impressive to me. Now, of course, the Sixers got their act together and closed out the game like I think most of us expected to. Of course, it didn't help that the Bulls started turning the ball over. They took some bad shots, but I just thought it was funny and ironic that the Bulls even made this kind of run to close out the game. You know, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up with this team. But anyway, the Bulls lose yet again. They have now fallen to 13 games below 500, 12th in the East, and now just a 1.5% chance of making the playoffs, which is as good as missing it at this point. Which of course leads me into the topic at hand, and that's whether it is even worth it to bring in back Zach Lavine at this point, given the incredibly slim chance the Bulls have at even making the play-in tournament with only 7 games left on the schedule. And we also still don't have any clarity on what is going on with Vucevic and when we can expect him to come back. Now, I don't want to speculate too much here on the odd nature of Zach Lavine falling into the health and safety protocol. The fact that he was out for longer than any other player who has entered into the protocol who didn't have strong symptoms or needed more time to recover physically, because by all intents and purposes, Lavine was feeling fine and healthy. This was coming from Lavine himself and a handful of posts that he made on social media, as well as what had actually been revealed by the media themselves. I mean, the fact that Lavine had played in a game the night before and then entered the protocol without any other players on the Bulls or the opposing team being at least taken out for a short period of time due to contact tracing was astounding to me, to say the least. And the fact that it had taken 4 weeks since he entered into the protocol for him to be cleared was also very suspect. And again, even for the game on Thursday, the team announced that they hope that he will return for the game against the Hornets, but they have not confirmed yet, in fact, that he will. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, the Bulls aren't making the playoffs, which is so depressing to say because this team should have made the playoffs this season. And that includes with the trades that were made at the deadline, even though the timing and that it takes the chemistry to get going a little bit. And even before the trades, the Bulls really should have performed better than they did in a poor Eastern Conference with the level of young talent that they had. The inconsistency in their play, the persistent issues they had with turnovers, all season was just unacceptable. But anyway, besides the point, the Bulls aren't making the playoffs. Zach Lavine has been out for the last 11 games. Vucevic has been out for the last 2. Troy Brown Jr. has been out for quite some time as well. It doesn't make sense to play your star players. Not that Troy Brown Jr. is a star player. I'm talking about Lavine and Vucevic. But it doesn't make sense to play your star players who are a little older. Not that they're that old by any means. Lavine is 26 and Vucevic is 30, but older than some of these younger players on the Bulls. Is it worth risking a potential injury, a major injury, to one of your star players in 7 games left of the season in a lost season? Now guys, I am not a fan of tanking. If you've been following my channel for a while now, I have made multiple videos in the past about how tanking is never a good strategy for any team in the NBA because it perpetuates this culture and mentality of losing. Not only that, the NBA lottery, first of all, is never guaranteed. That's why it's a lottery. So even if you finish with the worst record in the league, you are not guaranteed the #1 pick or even the top 4 pick for that matter. And even if you are able to get a high draft pick, the NBA draft is a crapshoot. Some high lottery picks turn out to be busts, and some lower lottery picks or even later first rounders end up becoming superstars. You just really never know. And for the Bulls, especially this season after they traded away their pick to the Magic, although it is top 4 protected, it even further doesn't make sense for the Bulls to tank, especially with their current standings, because it's unlikely they're going to fall into the top 4, a less than 25% chance of getting a top 4 pick at this point, meaning it's a 75% chance that that pick is going to go to the Orlando Magic. So I don't condone tanking, even in this situation that I'm talking about right now. I'm not suggesting that the Bulls tank, because I can't stand watching my team lose intentionally, especially when we have seen the Bulls lose far too long now. More so, it's not worth the risk of playing your 2-star players that you're trying to build your future around. That's what I'm trying to get at, rather than the actual idea of tanking. I know a lot of people are now saying that this trade was a desperation move, that it was a poor trade, that this trade is going to set our franchise back. No, I don't believe that at all. This trade that was made for Vucevic was made for next season. Mid-season trades rarely pan out because it takes time for teams to build that chemistry, learn a new system, learn how to play with new players. So when the Bulls made that trade for Vucevic, I'll be honest, I thought that it would guarantee a playoff spot, I'll admit. However, I by no means thought that this would make us title contenders, but rather that it puts the Bulls on a path to contention by bringing in help for Zach Lavine and continuing to develop the young talent that they have further. Granted, still a lot of holes in this team that still need to be addressed, but that's the point, is that, you know, this trade move that was made by the new front office was a first step in the new regime's direction. So I completely disagree that this trade that was made for Vucevic was a mistake. It will pay off for the Bulls when next season starts. But for the Bulls, with the remainder of the season, this season is done. As much as I would like to see Lavine and Vucevic back and closing out the season strong to show some sort of promise going into the offseason that may look slightly better in attracting free agents, but at the risk of a potential injury, which I know is unlikely, but the Bulls making any kind of push for the playoffs at this point is also unlikely to none. It might make more sense to get some of these younger players some more playing time and development going into next season. Again, I've never supported the idea of just resting your star players at the end of the season, whether you're going to the playoffs or you're not, because as fans, it's a horrible fan experience. And at the end of the day, this is still the player's job, is to play basketball. And if they're healthy to play, they should play. But of course, when it is your team, you know your team isn't going anywhere this season. You know your team made these trades and moves for the future. Maybe just accept this season as a loss, move forward, and don't risk any setbacks in these final games of the season. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts though. Do you think the Bulls should have Lavine rejoin the lineup even if he is healthy to play, given the circumstances of where the Bulls find themselves in the standings? And the same goes for Vucevic as well, especially since he's been suffering from an injury that appears to be minor, but who knows, it could be worse if he's brought back too soon. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for always, guys, for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one.